The 10 Wealth Rules Nobody teaches in school. 10 years ago, two students walked out of the same classroom carrying the exact same diploma, same grades, same teachers, same city, same starting line. One of them is now worth over $1 million. The other still feels a small wave of anxiety every time his rent is due. What's strange is that neither one was smarter. Neither inherited money. Neither built the next billion-dollar startup. The difference came down to a handful of rules that quietly determine where money flows, who keeps it, and who spends their entire life chasing it. My name is Nick, and I've spent an embarrassing amount of time studying why some people seem to escape the money treadmill while everyone else just runs faster on it. If you've ever looked at your bank account and wondered why financial progress feels so much harder than it should, today is for you. Because schools teach us how to pass tests. They teach us how to memorize facts. They teach us how to solve equations we'll never use again. But they almost never teach us the rules that govern money. And the cost of learning those rules late isn't measured in grades. It's measured in decades. Before we start, I want you to hold on to one idea because it's the thread connecting every rule on this list. Wealth is rarely built through one giant decision. It's usually built through hundreds of small decisions that all point in the same direction. Every dollar is casting a vote for the future version of your life. The question is whether you're voting for freedom or for more bills. Let's start with rule number 1. Rule number 1. Your income matters more than your budgeting skills. Now, don't misunderstand me. Budgeting matters. Spending less than you earn matters. But the internet has become obsessed with saving money while almost completely ignoring the machine that produces it. Imagine two people. Jake earns $40,000 a year and saves 20%. Sophia earns $100,000 a year and saves 15%. Jake is more disciplined. Sophia invests almost twice as much money every year. Discipline matters. Income multiplies discipline. The uncomfortable truth is that many people spend years trying to optimize tiny expenses while ignoring the much bigger opportunity sitting right in front of them: their ability to earn more. A $5 coffee isn't what's keeping most people poor, but refusing to develop valuable skills absolutely can. Schools spend thousands of hours teaching students how to answer questions. Almost no time teaching them how to negotiate, communicate, sell, persuade, lead, or create value. Yet those skills often determine whether someone earns $50,000 a year or $250,000. Every raise doesn't just increase your income this year. It increases every future dollar you'll ever save. That's why the first wealth rule is simple. Don't just learn how to save money. Learn how to become worth more money, because a bigger shovel moves more dirt. Rule number 2. Lifestyle inflation is the silent wealth killer. Meet Ethan. At 24, he got his first real promotion. He celebrated with a nicer apartment, then a newer car, then better vacations, then more expensive restaurants. 5 years later, his salary had nearly doubled. His savings barely moved. This is the trap nobody sees coming. Most people think financial success means earning more. The problem is that every increase in income is usually followed by an increase in spending, and every upgrade feels reasonable. Nobody says, "Today, I'm going to sabotage my financial future." Instead, they say things like, "I deserve this. I worked hard. It's only a little more." And sometimes they're right. The problem isn't one purchase. It's the accumulation of all of them. A slightly nicer apartment becomes thousands per year. A slightly nicer car becomes tens of thousands over a decade. A handful of luxury habits become permanent monthly expenses. And eventually people discover something strange. Their income doubled. Their freedom didn't. The wealthiest people aren't necessarily the people who earn the most. They're often the people who create the largest gap between what they earn and what they spend. That gap is where wealth lives. Every time you increase your income without increasing your lifestyle, you create room for investments to grow. Every time your lifestyle rises with your income, you reset the game back to zero. Which brings us to rule number 3. Rule number 3. Time is more powerful than intelligence. This might be the most important rule on the entire list, because almost everyone dramatically underestimates how powerful compounding really is. Let's take 2 people. Mason starts investing at age 22. Olivia waits until age 32. Both invest the same amount every month. Both earn the same returns. Mason doesn't invest more money. He simply starts 10 years earlier. By retirement, the gap between them isn't small. It's enormous. Those first 10 years often matter more than the last 20. That's the part most people struggle to understand. Compounding isn't linear. It starts slowly. Painfully slowly. For years, it feels like nothing is happening. Then suddenly, it feels like everything is happening at once. Most people quit during the boring phase. The wealthy benefit from staying. Imagine planting a tree. For years, it looks unimpressive. Then one day, it's providing shade nobody else has. Money works the same way. The first $100,000 is hard. The second is easier. The third comes faster. Not because you're smarter, because compounding finally has something to work with. And that's the secret nobody teaches in school. Wealth isn't usually built by making brilliant decisions. It's built by giving good decisions enough time to matter. Rule number 4. Assets buy freedom. Liabilities buy appearances. If there is one rule that separates wealthy people from everyone else, it's this one. Most people spend their lives collecting things that look expensive. Wealthy people spend their lives collecting things that produce cash. The difference sounds small. It's not. Meet Ryan and Alex. Both receive a $20,000 bonus. Ryan buys a luxury watch, upgrades his car, and takes a vacation. Alex buys shares in businesses, invests in productive assets, and keeps living exactly as he did before. 5 years later, Ryan has memories, photos, and a watch worth less than he paid for it. Alex owns assets that have been quietly working while he slept. The problem is that liabilities feel richer. A new car feels rich. A designer outfit feels rich. A bigger house feels rich. Assets usually feel boring. Index funds are boring. Rental income is boring. Owning part of a business is boring. But wealth has a strange habit of hiding inside boring things. Most people buy things to look wealthy. The truly wealthy buy things that make them wealthy. And eventually, those assets buy something far more valuable than status. They buy options. The option to leave a bad job. The option to take a risk. The option to spend more time with family. The option to say no. Money isn't valuable because of what it buys. Money is valuable because of what it allows you to refuse. Rule number 5. Debt can either build your future or consume it. Schools spend years warning people about failure. Almost nobody explains the difference between good debt and bad debt. To most people, debt is debt. But financially, they're not even close to the same thing. Imagine 2 neighbors. One finances a luxury SUV he can't afford. The other borrows money to acquire an asset that produces income. Both owe money. Only one is getting richer. Bad debt takes money out of your pocket every month. Good debt has the potential to put money into it. The problem is that modern life is built around making debt feel harmless. Monthly payments hide true costs. Instead of asking, "Can I afford this?" people ask, "Can I afford the monthly payment?" And that's a completely different question. A $60,000 car sounds expensive. A $650 monthly payment sounds manageable. The numbers didn't change. Only the psychology did. Debt is dangerous because it allows future income to be spent today. And once enough future income has been promised away, financial freedom becomes impossible. Every dollar committed to payments is a dollar that can't be invested. Every payment is a small vote against future flexibility. The wealthiest people understand something most people don't. Debt is a tool, and like every tool, it depends entirely on what you're building. Rule number 6. Most people overestimate investing and underestimate behavior. This is where things get interesting, because everyone wants the perfect investment, the perfect stock, the perfect crypto coin, the perfect strategy. Almost nobody asks whether they have the right behavior, and behavior matters far more than intelligence. Let's go back to our two students. One spends every day chasing the hottest opportunity. The other buys a simple index fund every month. The first person sounds smarter. The second person usually ends up richer. Why? Because investing success has surprisingly little to do with IQ once you understand the basics. The real challenge is emotional control. Can you keep buying when everyone else is panicking? Can you avoid selling when headlines are screaming disaster? Can you stay patient when someone on social media claims they doubled their money overnight? Most people can't. That's why average investor returns are often much lower than market returns. The investments aren't failing. The investors are. They buy after prices rise. They panic after prices fall. They chase excitement. They avoid boredom. And in doing so, they accidentally turn good investments into bad outcomes. The market has a way of rewarding patience and punishing action, which is unfortunate because humans love action. Doing nothing feels irresponsible. Checking your portfolio feels productive. Making trades feels intelligent. Most of the time, it's just expensive. One of the greatest financial advantages you can develop is the ability to stay calm while everyone else is losing theirs. Because markets eventually recover. Panic sellers don't always recover with them. And that's the hidden lesson. The biggest enemy of wealth isn't inflation. It isn't taxes. It isn't even bad investments. It's often the person staring back at you in the mirror. Because money is rarely a math problem. It's usually a behavior problem. And the people who master their emotions gain an advantage that compounds for decades. The next rule is where things start getting uncomfortable, because it challenges one of the most popular beliefs in modern society. And it quietly explains why so many hardworking people stay stuck despite doing everything they were told was right. Rule number 7. Hard work is necessary. It is not sufficient. This is the rule that makes people uncomfortable because we've been told the same story our entire lives. Work hard. Keep your head down. Everything will work out. And while hard work absolutely matters, it leaves out a critical detail. Hard work only creates wealth when it's connected to value. Imagine two people working 60 hours a week. One spends those hours digging holes with a shovel. The other spends those hours building software used by millions of people. Both work hard. One creates dramatically more value. The marketplace doesn't reward effort. It rewards value. That's why some people earn more in a week than others earn in a year. It's not always fair. But fairness and reality have never been the same thing. Schools teach people to become good employees. The marketplace rewards people who solve expensive problems. The larger the problem you solve, the larger the reward tends to be. And that's why the wealthiest people often focus obsessively on leverage. Not because they're lazy, because they understand something important. There are only so many hours in a day. Eventually, you stop scaling through effort and start scaling through systems, through businesses, through investments, through audiences, through technology, through assets that continue working after you've stopped. Hard work gets you moving. Leverage determines how far you go. Rule number 8. Your environment shapes your financial future more than you think. Most people imagine financial decisions happening in isolation, as if they sit down, think logically, and make objective choices. Reality is much messier. Human beings absorb the habits of the people around them. Spend enough time around people who constantly spend money, and spending starts feeling normal. Spend enough time around people building businesses, investing, and thinking long-term, and those behaviors begin feeling normal too. Meet Sarah. She graduated with talented friends, but over time, her circle slowly shifted. Some friends spent every raise immediately. Others constantly complained about money while refusing to learn about it. A few laughed at investing entirely. Without realizing it, Sarah adopted many of the same habits. Years later, she wasn't living her financial life. She was living the average of the people around her. This happens everywhere. The cars your neighbors drive influence the car you want. The restaurants your friends visit influence where you spend. The lifestyle around you quietly becomes the standard you compare yourself against. And comparison is expensive. The wealthiest people often look independent. What they're really doing is protecting themselves from social pressure. Because social pressure is one of the most powerful financial forces in existence. It's difficult to build wealth while constantly trying to impress people, especially when those people aren't paying your bills. Choose your environment carefully, because eventually your environment starts choosing for you. Rule number 9. Wealth is built quietly. This might be the least exciting rule on the list. It's also one of the most important. Most people dramatically overestimate what can happen in a year and underestimate what can happen in 20. We live in a world obsessed with immediate results, instant delivery, instant entertainment, instant success stories. But wealth doesn't usually work that way. Real wealth grows slowly, almost invisibly. At first it feels like nothing is happening. Then one day people look at the result and call it luck. Imagine planting a seed. Every day you water it. Nothing seems different. Weeks pass. Still nothing impressive. Months pass. Growth finally appears. The problem is that most people quit during the invisible stage. They want proof too quickly. They want results too quickly. They want certainty too quickly. The wealthy often win simply because they stay in the game longer, not because they're smarter, not because they're luckier, because they understood that compounding requires patience. Patience is one of the rarest financial advantages left. Everyone wants the outcome. Very few people can tolerate the waiting period. Rule number 10. Financial freedom is not a number. It's a relationship. Ask most people how much money they need to be financially free. The answer is almost always another number. $1 million. 5 million. 10 million. But freedom isn't really about a specific amount. It's about the relationship between your income and your lifestyle. One person earning $60,000 while spending $40,000 may be closer to freedom than someone earning $500,000 while spending $490,000. Because freedom isn't measured by income, it's measured by dependency. How much money do you need each month just to maintain your current life? How many obligations own your future? How many payments control your decisions? That's the real calculation. The goal was never to become rich. The goal was always to become free. Rich is a number. Freedom is a condition. And confusing those two things causes people to chase money long after they needed to. Now let's go back to those two students from the beginning. Same diploma, same teachers, same starting line. One spent years upgrading every part of his lifestyle every time his income increased. He worked hard, earned decent money, looked successful from the outside. But he never learned the rules. The other focused on increasing income, controlling lifestyle inflation, buying assets, avoiding destructive debt, investing consistently, surrounding herself with the right people, and staying patient. Nothing she did was exciting. Nothing she did would have made a viral social media post. Most of it looked boring. That's exactly why it worked. Because wealth is rarely built through dramatic moments. It's usually built through ordinary decisions, repeated for an extraordinarily long time. And that's the part schools never teach. The people who become wealthy aren't necessarily the smartest people in the room. They're often the people who learned a few timeless rules and had the discipline to follow them when nobody was watching. So if you remember nothing else from this video, remember this. Wealth is not built in a single day, but it is built daily. Every purchase, every investment, every financial decision, every habit, every choice, they're all votes for the person you'll become 10 years from now. The future version of you is being built right now, whether you notice it or not. The only question is whether you're building it on purpose. And that's the difference between the people who spend their lives chasing money and the people who eventually no longer have to. If you made it this far, you're clearly serious about changing how you think about money. If this video gave you even one new perspective, consider subscribing to the channel. I break down money, habits, and real-world success in a simple, story-driven way like this. And if you found value here, hit the like button. It really helps the channel grow. Share this video with someone who still believes hard work alone is enough. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.